their hands and if there's any pain, it would be a no-go just because of the position we're in. You know, this could be a longer series, so there's no point in trying to go out there and re-aggravate it and potentially keep myself out of the whole entire finals instead of just one game. So, like I said, it'll be a game-time decision, but I really want to be out there.
Our team is very adaptable. We've got a lot of versatility, and what it requires is bench players being ready to step up like they always are, and guys just playing hard and playing together. And I think you have to be fearless too, which our team is. You can't worry about anything. You just go out there and play and compete and let it fly, and whatever happens, happens.
We do it by committee. There's a lot of different voices that we have that we rely on. Myself, Draymond, Sean, Andre, even Kay when he's able to provide his input, even when he's injured and going through his rehab and stuff like that. So we all just understand the moment.
Well, many thought they couldn't win without KD, and then how about no KD and getting huge minutes from Jordan Bell and getting it from Looney, who now is out for the series, and then Bogut back in, and we've seen Jerebko and Cook had big shots, and by the way, Boogie a factor already. So to say they can't, as you look at the injury list, win without Klay Thompson probably would just be putting the Warriors, Vince, in the spot they like to be in where they're challenged. But I want to get to, from the hamstring standpoint, one of those injuries, take me through as a player and an athlete. You have to be careful because if you push too hard, then it could be 10 times worse. But Klay's a competitor, so how do you get in his way or really truly know how hurt he is? Because you have to trust him and ask him, right?
Well, we heard him say it is that, yes, I want to be out there, but does it make sense to play one game to potentially be out for the rest of the season? Or do I take the time, miss one game and come back? That tells me they're very confident. They still have the ability to win. They believe in themselves, whether he's in or out. We on the outside say, oh, if Klay's not there, KD's not there, they don't have a chance. But they believe they have a chance. In a confident bunch, you still have to give them the chance because they're champs.
We talked about this earlier today, Brendan, but I think it's important to point out, we all talk about the importance of the offense, right, because of the perimeter shooting, but it's defensively, right, where he would have even more of a struggle. We know he can get off of screens, but you could try and limit him a little bit and kind of put him in positions easier to shoot with less movement offensively. On defense, it's reactionary and instinct, and that, I guess, right, is where the question would be.
Yeah, that is definitely the question. Offensively, you're in control of your movements. You understand, hey, I might not want to push it around this screen because I feel a little bit of a twinge. But when you're on defense, it's a reactionary position, so you have to close out to Kawhi. He might make a hard jab right and go left, and you have to react to it, and you don't have time to think. And in those moments, that is when that hamstring can give you the most problems, when you're trying to make quick cuts, moving from side to side, and you're not able to think about it. You have to move instinctually. That's when the hammy can really give you a problem if you're not 100%. Klay Thompson was absolutely right. He might need to sit out this game because if he goes out there and he plays on his hamstring and it's not right, he does risk doing further injury to himself and being not available for the rest of the series.
And the one thing to add to that, defensively, if he does so happen to play, one thing we've seen from Golden State, they have multiple defensive schemes. So, maybe you blitz, maybe you play a soft zone just to allow him to get over screens to kind of protect that hamstring. Or maybe you just don't put him on someone like Kawhi. You just have to kind of pick your spots on who you put him on. So,
I know we know this. We won't see a box and one, at least not from Golden State. We thought we could say we wouldn't see it at all, but who knew? We'll get to that. Kevon Looney, such a huge factor, Brendan, in the last series. I mean, really, they don't probably win that series without the way that he played. Now you don't have him, but I don't want to say better because you'd love to have him, but how much easier is it to look at knowing what you got out of Boogie, the Game 2 version, which seemed just exponentially better than even with the rust we saw in Game 1?
Well, listen, Boogie played very, very good Game 2. I was surprised. I'm not sure how much he had left coming back from that injury, but he showed that he was still able to play. He's smart. He's savvy. He understands when to pick his spots. He can still get to the free throw line. Excellent passing. I think the passing and the rebounding was the most important two things that Boogie did in Game 2. Really helped this team out a lot. But even though Boogie's back, and he's not all the way back, he's just partially back, we can't discount how much Kevon Looney means to this team, because he is somebody that goes out there, he plays his role, sets good screens, does exactly what they ask him to do, has gotten in better shape, and now he plays the screen and roll very well. He switches the screen and roll and moves his feet in a level that Bogut cannot. So, yeah, they got Boogie back, but now they're forced to play Bogut, and Bogut had a nice big 6 points in 7 minutes. He had 3 big lobs, or 3 big dunks in that case. But you also look at how many points he gave up in the screen and roll. Kevon Looney does not give those up because he's a better pick and roll defender in today's game.
And that's what's important having Kevon is that, you know, you play Boogie when he's tired. You have the luxury of bringing in a Looney who defensively can control the paint. You can switch with him on the guards, on the forwards, and he does a good job of keeping the ball in front of him. And offensively, he just knows his role, knows who he is, gets some extra possessions, which you cannot give Golden State. That's why he's so important to this team, and I think it's a big loss.
Yeah, how many times did we see him get an offensive rebound in that Houston series?
Yeah, the throw out to the kickout three.
Oh, my goodness. He was in that game 6, he was always on the glass making huge plays from an offensive rebounding standpoint.
You know, one of the things you mentioned, B-Wood, about Boogie, the 6 assists, always been a very good passer, but with bigs like he and Draymond, it's very different than anybody else could bring to the table with both of them on the floor. It's part of why you saw what you did in Game 2, and that assist percentage, you know, look, in the first 2 games of this series, it's been enormous. Highest in a finals game since going back to the St. Louis Hawks. Go and look in your basketball reference for that information. Reference this, though, because one of the things about assists is you got to have makes, right? I remember during the course of the year, people were talking about LeBron making players better. There were a lot of times he would have assists that would have been, but then weren't. Well, if you don't have Klay on the floor, and I do this not purposely even as a joke, or Steph, Quinn Cook,
by the way,
who played at that other school in the ACC,
don't know what you're talking
becomes really important because he had back-to-back threes that I said this earlier today I thought really were the turning point in that run in the second half. And you're going to need perimeter shooting because it's one thing to get open, it's another to trust the guy who gets the ball.
Particularly if they play that box and one or your box and one on Steph, you're going to need the guys to shoot the ball. Livingston's not really a shooter. Iguodala, when's the last time he made a three?
May 10th.
Okay, so
a month of Sundays.
Yeah,
it's been a month of Sundays.
It's going to be important to kind of load up on your shooters, and guys going to have to shoot him, and he is a very confident shooter, so he's going to be an asset to their team.
Yeah, I think you made a point. Iguodala, up until the big 3 that he hit last game, those 2 threes he hit, hadn't hit threes in about a month, really, about since May 10th. So when you bring in somebody like Quinn Cook, he is a willing shooter. He's somebody that wants to shoot the ball. He has a lot of confidence. When you talk to the Golden State Warriors, they say he has the most confidence on the team, and you need that right now.
Yes.
When Klay Thompson, if Klay Thompson is not able to play, you need somebody that's going to step up and not be scared of the moment. I don't think Quinn Cook will be scared of the moment. He believes that he should be here. This is a guy that had to go the long road. Didn't get drafted really high. This wasn't a guy that was a top 5 pick. He had to go to the G League, prove he belonged there, and then get called up to the NBA and prove he belongs here. And now all of his teammates know that he belongs. I think the moment is set up for Quinn Cook to have a big game in Game 3.
As well as their others, the rest of their team. I think this is the team of believers. I think it's us on the other side who are like, oh, maybe they're in trouble. Yeah. I think they believe they can compete. They believe, hey, if Klay is not playing, we still have a chance to win. 1, we're at home. 2, we're who we are. And, you know, I think they believe that.
And when you have a system, guys can fit in. We've seen that. By the way, if you're ever having struggles, and this is as somebody who's a newlywed, just have kids. Because that's what has happened with Fred VanVleet. And all of a sudden, he's been out playing and playing more minutes than Kyle Lowry has down the stretch. How about the guards of the Raps and that guy Kawhi heading into game number 3? Surprise and big spots seeing Andre Iguodala hit big shots. And you look at Game 1 and Game 2. Some differences, including, of course, the play of Pascal Siakam and Marc Gasol. But for Kyle Lowry and the Raptors, it is all about the urgency as they head into game number 3.
We come into a sense of urgency, period. No matter, the situation, we want to win as many games. We want to be the first to 4. And every game is an urgent game. You're in the NBA Finals, so it doesn't matter. They still got professional basketball players down there, and they're really talented basketball players. So you still got to be ready to go out there and play your butt off and play hard.
You know, it's really interesting because you think about, and we start at the guard position. I want to look at what they did defensively with Nick Nurse, but Fred VanVleet, we joked before the break about the idea of, okay, all you need is to have a baby. I said it's like the Jordan shoe back like 20 years ago. Now you just have a kid and I know it brings perspective, but that's not the only reason that Van Vliet has played well. Whatever's turned him into the old version, again, the new, has changed things, and it's helped because, again, Kyle Lowry has not been very good here in the first couple of games down the stretch.
Well, it's all about confidence. It's all about seeing shots go in. You know, when you see one or two go in, now the rim becomes a little larger. And I think, you know, yes, he had the baby, and that's a great feeling. So you're comfortable, you know. I mean, and I can say when you see your kid, it's the calming effect. And I think that's what I assume brought to him. And now he's making a couple of shots, and he's been on fire, and he's been playing unbelievable. You have to play him. And it's a luxury to have him coming off the bench, and you can play him down the stretch big minutes because he's a threat, and he deserves the attention he's getting around the perimeter.
That said, we know this. I always hear this from you guys and others. The others play better, right, easier at home than on the road, so we'll see how that translates. The box and one was not something necessarily that was received well by the Warriors.
Steph called it janky.
Draymond Green, who we'll hear in this show, said among other things that they look forward to dissecting it after now having seen it. But take us through the why and the what in the box and one, something that many never even remember ever seeing in the NBA level.
I saw it in high school.
Yeah, you probably did. I did not. But the box and one is generally designed when you play against teams that only have one good player, and you basically say, hey, we want to put one guy on him, and then we want to shut down the paint. And that is exactly what happened here. And you normally don't see it in the NBA because most teams have a lot of shooters. But guess what? No KD, no Klay, and you can run a box and one. Now, you see Van Vliet following Steph all over the court. The other four guys are simply guarding areas, and those areas are the elbows and boxes of the paint where they're just shutting down the paint. The whole idea of the box and one, look what they're doing. Shut down the paint, close down the drives. We want to force all these non-shooters, whether we're talking about Iggy, Dre, whoever, we want those guys to have to shoot the ball from three, and we want to put maximum attention on Steph Curry. Once again, as soon as that ball gets to the paint, you see all the defenders react to it, and they do not overreact to the ball being passed around the perimeter. Van Vliet, excellent defense, more help on Steph. Once again, not in a big hurry to get out to the perimeter guarding Dre right there. You see Quinn Cook split it, ends up taking the tough pull-up jumper. But the whole focus of a box and one basically saying, we want to take away your best player, and then we want to shut down the paint. Now, normally you see this in college, and you don't, and sometimes you see it in high school, because most college teams have 2 to 3 really good players.
Right.
But in this unique case, you have to give Nick Nurse credit. He drew this up on the fly. He figured it would just steal him a couple possessions, and the box and one actually got him back in the game. It did exactly what it was designed to do. It shut off the paint for the Golden State Warriors, and they focused all their attention on Steph Curry and taking him away. Look for this box and one to be used. I'm not going to say all the time, but they will use this box and one again against Golden State coming out of timeouts just to give Golden State a different feel and change up the tempo of the game.
Well, I was going to ask you because, first of all, with or without Klay is a big difference, right? Because Klay, you cannot leave that way. So we'll see if he plays in Game 3. But, Vince, a lot of the Warriors seem to say that, hey, look, it caught them by surprise. But this is a team of athletes at a high level going for the 3rd championship in a row. So take me through as an athlete, now having a couple of days, how much harder is it to have an impact with that defense because now the Warriors have some time to look at?
Well, now, you know, the Raptors can go away from it and say, we know we have this in the bag. And like Brendan said, out of timeouts, after free throws, just any time when you feel like you just want to ISO situation, late clock, whenever you want to get the ball out of Steph's hands, you want to make the others, the non-shooters, shoot the ball or make the decisions, and you have to live with the results. You'd rather live with the result of the results of the others than Steph really breaking you down, getting threes or getting fouls, getting to the free throw line.
You know, as far as the results of the others for the Raptors on the offensive side, we should point out, even though they lost Game 2, Brendan, there was a lot to like about kind of how they lost it in terms of they got uncontested shots. Now, they missed many of them, but is it almost easier to take when you look at the fact that, hey, look, they were finding themselves open in Game 2. They know they need to make those shots as they did against Milwaukee and in Game 1, but it wasn't like they had an inability to find them in Game 2 offensively. Yeah,
and if you're the Raptors, you have to look at the film and say, hey, guys, these are the same shots that we were missing. We missed in Game 2, we were hitting in Game 1. Let's make sure that we still don't lose confidence, stay on task, trust the offense, trust that guys will get shots in the right areas, and then you'll be able to hit those shots. And we saw Siakam play very well in transition. We saw Van Vliet hitting shots along with Danny Green and a couple of other, Gasol as well. So those guys are going to continue to get good shots because Golden State's whole focus right now is to take away Kawhi Leonard, and a lot of times he is such a big problem right now offensively, even though he's hobbled, that it leads to guys like Danny Green, Van Vliet, Gasol getting open looks. Those guys have to hit those shots, and when you hit shots, it totally changes things, and it shakes the defense a little bit. It's like a body shot in boxing.
Right, and to add to that, they have to shoot that from the jump. It's not like don't hesitate, don't get gun shy.
Yeah,
let it go.
Gasol hesitates sometimes, right?
Yeah.
He has to shoot it.
He has to shoot it.
Remember this, too, doesn't get talked about a lot. No Klay on the floor. One of the best defensive players in the league. Kevin Durant, great defender as well. So you don't just lose the offensive side. The Warriors become even more depleted on the defensive end. Not when they have this guy, though, the greatest defensive player that has ever lived, Draymond Green. Self-acclaimed or not, certainly is one of them, and he's made himself a factor. Triple-double-like factor. We'll hear from him.
Best defender all time.